Let's talk about your basic training. How long was your basic training, and like what's kind of the focus there in the Marine Corps? It's like break you down, everyone down mentally, basically, and build you all up together to kind of be on the same level. Is it kind of the same way in the Australian military?
Yeah, so from my side of things, there's two types. There was what we call recruit training.
Hmm.
I don't know the timeline now. It was about 10 weeks, 10 and a half weeks for me. And it was, yeah, giving you the discipline, breaking you down from being a civilian into, an organised unit, an organised form body, and turning you into a military-esque person. So, and giving you the basic knowledge of the overall military.
Hmm.
Then you go into your initial employment training, which is your specialist training. So for my original job in the conventional side of the Air Force was Airfield Defence Guard. So I don't know if the Marines have anything like it, but in the Air Force side of things, it's equivalent of, say, security forces across that side of things. So you're looking after protection of the airbase. So I did that for 5 years. The initial employment training, it was pretty tough, actually. So as again, I thought I was pretty fit and strong-minded and everything like that, but it really did break me down, and I managed to push through, and it gave me those mental building blocks for everything that I did along the way.
Do you guys have like when you're going through that kind of training and throughout your career, is there a focus on the history of your service and like the lineage and like, hey, this unit fought in these battles, and it's like, is that a thing? Because in the Marine Corps, it's like, oh man, you're with Fifth Marines. That's a historic unit in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, definitely. So with the unit I joined, they have fair history back from World War II onwards, through Vietnam, into East Timor, and then subsequently Iraq and Afghanistan. So I was out before they went to Iraq and Afghanistan, but when I went through, they definitely had a history part that you had to learn and had to know. And all the streets around the barracks and everything are named after battles or deployment places and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah. So when you were in security forces, when you were doing what was it? What did you call it? I call it security forces.
Oh, it was, yeah. You can call it security forces.
Okay.
It's called Airfield. It was called Airfield Defence Guard. It's actually called security forces over here now too in Australia.
Okay. When you were doing that, is that is it what you thought it'd be? Like you joined and you're like, oh, I'm going to join the military. It's going to be awesome. And now
It
you're guarding airfields.
um, it was. I kind of fell into the role because I joined up originally with the intention of joining the infantry in the Australian Army, because all I wanted to do was get to East Timor. So what happened was there was a backlog in recruits because they're just starting to push, they opened up the recruiting side of things and they were starting to push people through. So it was going to be about 10 months till I could start recruit training. So by the time I got through my initial employment training and possibly getting to Timor, and I thought Timor might have been over by then. So I just went, oh no. And then I was offered this job as an AGI because they've got the equivalent sort of intelligence scores, and I think ASVABs they're called in the US.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got the equivalent. So I was offered that, and I could get an immediate start. And AGIs were in Timor at the time, so I've just gone, yeah, I'll jump at that. So I went into that. As the further on I went in my career with the SEC4, the Airfield Defence side of things, I'll try not to flip-flop back and forth so I don't confuse people, but it wasn't what I wanted. It just didn't. I thought there'd be a lot more action with it because they do patrols outside the wire. You go patrolling throughout the scrub, throughout the woods, and it just wasn't. I got some great deployments, met the best. I've met friends there that I've been friends with now for 23, 24 years, and just due to the camaraderie and the similar interests in life. So, but the overall job just wasn't what I wanted. But I did get a couple of good deployments out of it, so I can't complain.
What was going on in East Timor or East Timor?
Yeah, East Timor. So it was occupied by the Indonesians and the militia, who were sponsored by obviously Indonesian government. They were massacring people, and East Timor wanted their independence. So Australia stepped in, obviously with the help of a lot of other countries. US sent a decent force over there, and they peace enforced and forced the government to have those democratic elections. So yeah, it was a peace enforcement side of things. So
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So it's like those are the little things that people have in their career, those little opportunities that are, it's like, it's a one-off kind of opportunity that, you know, no one's ever really heard of, you know, because if there were I've interviewed like 100 people now, and not one person has told me about anything like that. And I'm sure there were Americans there, but it's like you have to find that one person that had that opportunity, which is another reason why I think the military is awesome, because everybody has, like, my experience can be completely different than your experience. Better, worse, you know, whatever. But there's just so many different experiences out there. The U.S. military, there's a lot of opportunities for experience because we have bases around the world. Are Australians really on any other bases outside of Australia? Do you guys have too many places outside of there?
Not really. There is an airbase out of Malaysia, but that's limited side of things. Other than that, outside of exchange programs, no, we don't sort of force project like that. As far as there could be super secret ones, I don't know. Yeah, nothing like, you know, the opportunity to go to Italy or go to England or go to, you know, countries like that.
Mm-hmm. I've actually been on my second ship deployment. I went to Malaysia and we did some training out there in the same place that the Australians come in there and did training and different stuff there. Malaysia's a really interesting place. It's like, that's like the first time I've been in a, like, I don't know how to describe it, like a tropical country with like huge like groves of palm trees, like the palm groves and stuff that are just so deep you can't even see through them, and there's just like monkeys running around. It's just like a weird place.
Yeah, the monkeys will steal your stuff if you put it down. If you put your gear down too long, the monkeys will come along and steal your stuff.
Yeah, it's super interesting. You know, it's opportunities to travel. It's one of the best things about it. Like seeing that kind of culture and understanding, like, I don't know, just seeing how other people live and stuff. It's just a good time.
The Corps has a massive deployment, not even a deployment, but a massive, I don't know if it sits as a posting, but in Northern Australia, in Darwin, there's like there's a lot of people up there.
Yeah, that was something that began a couple years before I got out. So I got out in 2018. So I think around 2015 or so, maybe a little bit before that, they started doing what do they call it? Like a Marine Rotational Force Darwin, I think is what it's actually called. And it's similar to what the guys do when they go to Okinawa, Japan. They usually go for like a 6-month rotation. A lot of it's training exercises and, you know, big scale training and stuff like that. And then they get libo and everything. I remember when this whole thing was being talked about and initially they chose Darwin, there was some outrage from Australia around that area, right? They didn't want to, you know, 1,000 Marines to roll in every 6 months and mess up their town.
Yeah, I don't know. The government up there seems to love it. I think the influx of tourism and the money that comes with the tourism, you know, you got 1,000+ Marines spending all their liberties, all their extra, you know, TDY cash on that side of things. So
yeah. It might, you know how it is with the media, man. They're gonna pull the few like outrage people, and they're gonna quote them. But yeah, and it was just something I remember. I remember all that happening though. I wish I would have had the opportunity to have done that. I've never been to Australia. I've never been to New Zealand. Those are two places that I, you know, kind of on my bucket list. So maybe one day, but not really so much. Did you ever get an opportunity to come to the States and train?
Yeah, I spent most of my special operations career trained, like all the bigger training activities were in the States. So obviously out at the Nevada testing range in Las Vegas, it's pretty tough when you get paid to stay at a casino and then you drive out an hour out to, you know, either project out of Creech or just go straight onto the range. So there's a lot of time there. Yuma, Arizona, over in Florida, down sort of the southern side, down Pensacola way, and a few of the air bases down there. Herbie Field, I think, is down that way. Virginia Beach, Fort Bragg, obviously. Fayetteville's not the nicest place, but Fort Bragg's obviously got some good training activities up there. But
God damn it, even the Australians know that Fayetteville's kind of a shithole.
Well, the locals call it Vietnam.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was about to say that.
Got up to obviously DC and that side of things, into Washington State. Yeah, so I spent a lot of training activities over in the US because in our side we'd either work with, unfortunately I didn't get to work with the MARSOC guys. A lot of my friends did. My rotations overseas sort of had me on par with the SEAL rotation. MARSOC and SEALs in our SOTF there used to just sort of do rotations. So I didn't get to work with any MASOC guys. We had the Marine Air Wing, obviously, on our rotations supporting us fairly heavily. But otherwise, yeah, it was all sort of US combat control.
That's awesome.
US Air Force. Yeah.
That's legit, because you've probably seen more of the United States than a lot of Americans. You know, I try to put it out there all the time. I'm like, people, our country is so big. People don't even realize. You know, people compare us to like, hey, you know, America compared to Germany or America compared to Italy. I'm like, dude, America is like Europe as a whole. You know, there's so many different states, you know, and different cultures and different kind of like environments. I mean, you were in the desert, you were up on the East Coast, you were down in the Florida Panhandle, you know, in the humidity down there. It's all different. It's just like, and the people, you know, the people are different in different areas. What did you think as a outsider coming to the United States? You know, what's your kind of opinion on your overall opinion on the general Americans?
I loved it. How do I put it? The generosity, and like we're in New Mexico. I went to Albuquerque, and I was, you know, chuffed at that because I went to a place where Breaking Bad. I was like, yeah, this is where Breaking Bad's filmed. So I loved it. Sat there with a couple of guys. We had a couple of PJ trainees there and a couple of guys that I work with, and we're just at a bar having lunch, like just having burgers and a couple of beers on a day off. And a former Green Beret heard that we were military, come over, introduced himself, thanked us for our service, like, and then paid our bill. We went up to pay our bill, and then, like, he took off. He didn't tell us he was going to do it. Like, the gratitude, the hospitality, yeah, I loved it. I think, you know, Australians tend to be a bit standoff. We tend to be sometimes a little bit arrogant. Not all of us, but there is that. I got a total different vibe being in the States. I never got tried to get stood over or talked down to or anything like that. So
most Americans they seems like it's like a live and let live, you know, like I'm doing my thing, you do your thing. I don't care. Don't bother me. I won't bother you. I've had a lot of people actually, if they found out, I've had multiple times people have paid for my meal, and most of the times they don't even tell me. I just go to pay for it and I find out afterwards. I'm like, oh man, that was super cool. You know, is that something you see in Australia?
I've never seen it here.
No?
Never seen it here. No.
That's a bummer. Well, you know, I mean, it's not, I think it's cool. And I think sometimes people get an expectation that they should get, like, oh, I'm in the military, I should get this treatment. And it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you volunteered, bro. Like, you're just like everybody else. Quit trying to milk it for the benefits, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of people here in the military who think that. It's like, I'm military, I should get this. Or I'm ex-military and I should get this. And it's just like, yeah.
Hey, we're all just regular guys, man. Everybody else is, you know, just live and let live. So at what point did you decide, like, hey, I want to move away from the security forces and I'd like to get into, you know, did you initially want to get into special operations, or do you guys have an opportunity to we call it lateral move into other jobs? Did you have that opportunity as well?
Yeah, there was definitely that opportunity. So I did a deployment in 2003, just after the invasion of Iraq. Like